already tried to get on school boards and have been on school boards. In some of these cases, these are school districts that already have people who self-identify as Republicans.
This is Tyler Kincaid, NBC investigative journalist on NPR.
And look at a lot of debates over what kind of textbooks will be used in school boards.
We had protests here in Colorado because they were trying to stop teaching about protests
on the curriculum as the school board, then over the superintendent in limiting what is taught or what is approved to be displayed in school districts.
Kids walking out of school because they were trying to take protests out of the curriculum.
For conservatives to win at getting more
this was a few years ago.
School board members ousted.
Before all the Black Lives Matter protests.
Energize
or before the
folks.
Recent rounds of them.
I would also say, Steve Bannon compared this to the Tea Party wave. I mean, we are not the ones who came up with looking at this like Tea Party 2.0. That's been something conservative activists point out. If you look at scenes from school boards, whether it's this week or going back a couple months, a lot of these scenes look very similar to what we saw in 2009, 2010, when the Tea Party wave started and folks were confronting members of Congress over the debate of the Affordable Care Act. And this is something that I do think really does have the chance to result in a Tea Party-like wave.
Well, it's the same wave. It's just
Trump, when
racist.
he was president, weighed in on critical race theory, too. He issued an executive order, I think this was last September, ordering the Office of Management and Budget to stop funding training on CRT for federal employees. And he called the training a propaganda effort. What was he trying to do? In what way was the Office of Management and Budget funding the training of CRT?
This was an order that President Trump gave after hearing about some of these trainings on Fox News. There's a conservative activist named Christopher Rufo who takes credit for inspiring this executive order because he reported last fall about how there were some trainings going on with federal contractors that subjected people to talk about their white privilege and the way he saw it as blaming white people for problems. President Trump took this on. I mean, Trump is known for.
I saw a video of a Karen complaining about those trainings in her social work.
Race issues was sort of people liken it to dog whistle politics, and. So from President Trump's view,
just call him a Nazi.
He could take without getting
call
members
him what
of
he
Congress
is. Call him a
involved
Nazi. Don't talk about dog whistles. Call him a Nazi.
Strike at a culture war issue. And at the time, this is a couple months before the election, perhaps it could rile up his base to get people motivated to think we've got to keep Trump in because otherwise this is the kind of thinking that will wash over in a potential Biden administration. President Biden, upon taking office, immediately revoked this order banning how certain diversity training can be taught. But this was something that President Trump took action on with regard to federal agencies and federal contractors to limit how they can do these sort of diversity and anti-racism trainings for employees.
That racism exists in America in schools,
so there has
even
been
though it does.
legislation drafted on the state level
and who's
to
afraid of that?
ban
Racists.
the teaching of critical race theory in schools. How far has that gotten so far?
Yeah, so a handful of states have already passed some version of a ban on either critical race theory or the teaching of divisive concepts in schools. And this is something we found in our reporting, that conservative groups like the Heritage Foundation, which is a think tank, have been hosting calls between activists leading some of these on-the-ground parent groups and conservative lawmakers to talk about the different bills, the different legislation that they've been pushing through. Republicans have also taken a step forward in other ways. For example, in Florida, the State Board of Education voted to ban it, so it didn't take a vote by lawmakers. In Montana, the Attorney General issued an opinion that effectively banned or limited how critical race theory or divisive concepts can be taught in schools. And it's really unclear how these laws are going to play out. I mean, very few of them have been on the books for, more than a month. So I think a lot of schools and a lot of teachers are just waiting to see, what does this mean? What can I talk about?
Why wait to see anything? Why not challenge a fascist law because it's fascist?
Race theory and suddenly this ban is passed. So what does it mean that they can't talk about if they don't think they
It
were
means you
teaching it to begin
protest
with?
people passing laws that
There's a
limit your
group
free
called
speech. That's what it
ALEC, which is
means.
an acronym for the American Legislative Exchange Council, and what they do is draft model legislation that can be used, conservative model legislation
Damn, I
that
was
can be
hoping they would be
used
good
by
people.
states as a template. How has
Hoping
ALEC
they were going to
gotten
bring
involved
somebody up
in
on
this fight
national
about
media that was
CRT?
not a Nazi.
Yeah,
But
so ALEC, like the Heritage Foundation, is one of the groups that have been hosting webinars, especially over
anyway,
the winter.
you've heard about them. I
between
feel like
the
it's just giving these
election
people
and the
more publicity
inauguration of
because they're not.
Biden to
Because
talk about critical
as
race
far as the
theory.
response,
And so
they're
this
just talking about
predates this
people
wave
waiting
of
and
activism
seeing.
we've seen confronting school
Talk about the
boards,
response. Talk
where
about
they
somebody
were getting
stopping
together
these
and talking
Nazis.
about how critical race theory was infiltrating schools and what needed to be done to stop it. And